Hey guys, John here. Welcome to another Line 6 Helix Stadium XL video. Thanks to all of you who watched my initial review and first impressions video, and thanks for all your comments. I really appreciate it. If you haven't seen that video yet, it's basically an overview of the unit and things that I found cool and important. In this video, we're going to do something very specific. We're going to build a high gain preset. And if this turns out to be a success, I'll definitely do more. So I want to start with a heavy high gain preset. In this case, with a guitar with active pickups. So I'm holding my Vola, the Keene machine, a really awesome guitar. And this guitar is equipped with the Fishman Fluence modern active pickups. So I'm gonna create a preset that works well with these pickups. The bridge pickup specifically, which is the ceramic pickup, so very tight and aggressive. And for future episodes, I'm definitely gonna try to switch it up with different guitars, different tunings, and also different amp models and stuff. So no, I'm not just going to rely on the Line 6 Badonk amp model. Especially for this video, I want to stick with one of the new amps, one of the Agora amps. Okay, so let's get started right away. I have my Helix Stadium XL in front of me here. It's going into my audio interface and into the DAW. So there you go. All right, let's start by creating a new empty preset. User preset number 1A. There we go. So this is our blank preset. Now, there's one thing that I want to do right away, and that is turn on the input noise gate. Okay, let's put the threshold to -60 or so and turn down the decay all the way, which is a setting that I like. Okay, that works for me. Now, of course, it's time to load up an amp model. Let's go with one of the Revv models because I really like those. And we're going to start with the matching cab. I'll dial that in, and then later I'll include my own IR so you guys can hear the difference. Of course, my IRs are available in my web store in case you really like those tones. But I want to show you both worlds, basically. Okay, so let's go to amp. And in this case, I think I'm going to go with the Revv 120 Red, because the red is a little bit more loose than the purple. Purple is a little bit more tight. And since we're dealing with such a tight and aggressive pickup already with the Fishman Fluence Modern, I don't want to use an amp that already is very tight. So this will complement it quite nicely, depending on the settings that we're going to use, etc. So the Revv 120 Red with the default settings. Let's check the focus view for the beautiful, beautiful graphics. Something, again, that I really appreciate about the Stadium XL, as well as the touchscreen. It's just a great user experience. I'm not going to mess with the focus view settings. We're going to dial it in to my own taste. And I've also loaded up the default cab block, of course. Let's take a listen to how this sounds. Not bad at all, but I think we can do better. For the amp, what I'm going to do straight away is turn on the bright switch. Let's take a listen to how that sounds. I must say it's already really tight sounding. Revv amps have a very full mid-range that works really well in the mix. You know, when you're playing by yourself, it might sound a little bit on the mid-humpy side, let's say honky. But in a mix, it will work really well. So it's really tight already, which I like, okay? But we shouldn't make it too tight. So I'm not going to put a tube screamer in front because it's going to make it even more like a cocked wah, if you know what I mean. Let's try the contour switch just so you can hear how that sounds. So that could work really well for a solo boost, but I think for this tone, it's a little bit too much, okay? And we might go back to these settings in a bit after we tweak the cabinet. Let's put aggression to 2, so that's the amount of gain that you'll get. That sounds about right. So at 0, it's the least amount of gain. With 1, you add a little bit more gain. And with 2, it's the maximum amount. All right, so we're going to stick with 2. Let's try the fat switch. Let's try it with it off first. And then the fat on. All right, I think I like it with the fat switch on, since we're already dealing with, you know, a very tight pickup. I want to add a little bit more gain, a little bit more, because why not? We want to get a very nice and modern metal slash, you know, rock tone. So no shame in having plenty of gain in there. So in terms of the settings, first what I want to do is go to the cabinet block and just see how that will affect the tone before we dial in the amp further. I think we're already well on our way for a good tone right there, right? So let's go to the cabinet block. Oh, this is my IR. That's funny. I was expecting there to be a, you know, a default cab block, but it defaulted to one of my IRs, the SDS Heyday Mix 1. So yeah, that's a surprise. So what I want to do first is go to one of the stock cabinets and, you know, start from there, because I want to show you how you can do all of this within the unit itself. I want to try a couple cabs. So let's try the 2x12 Mandarin. The level is a little bit on the low side. So not bad, but not perfect by default. Let's try the SM57. Let's put the position to 2.4 or 3, which is the cap edge. For a 2x12, that sounds quite massive, but let's try some other cabs. How about the Brit V30? That's very bright, very in your face. The Kali V30, which of course is a Mesa Boogie cabinet. Let's see how that sounds with the default setting. Of course, a bit on the dark side. Let's try the 57. So for me, that one is kind of the most even and balanced sounding. But for fun, let's also try the 4x12 Orange. Not really my taste for this tone. The Uber V30. And finally, let's try the XXL V30, which is based on an Engel 4x12. That's the default mic. And then the 57. So I'm not really feeling most of these stock cabs. They'll need some more tweaking. So we're going to go to the Kali V30. Stick with that. And let's start with the 57 Dynamic. So it's good for the grindy top end, but I want to add some thick bottom end and low mids. So let's add another, same cab, And for that one, we're going to use a different mic. Let's go with the 121 ribbon. Let's start with the position to the center. So this is a blend of the two. I did notice that the level dropped a little bit when I added that other mic, so let's boost the level of the 57. Not bad, not bad. Let's try and changing the distance of the 121. And just for the sake of this video, let's also try the 47 condenser. Yeah, let's stick with the 121. And let's lower the level of the 121. I can't raise the level of the 57 anymore, so let's go into the amp and boost up the level a little bit to compensate. All right, so that would be your basic bass tone or whatever, right? What I like to do sometimes is add a little bit of room reverb. Let's do that in stereo, just for fun. And let's go and choose the dynamic room. And what I will do is lower the decay, let's say to 800 milliseconds or so, and set the mix to 27%-ish. Let's see how that sounds. So that's still a pretty long decay, and the level's a little bit too hot. So let's lower the decay even more, lower the pre-delay, because I want it to sound like a smaller room. So let's lower the decay even more. It's just a subtle effect, right? To make it sound a little bit more roomy. So let's lower the mix a touch. It's supposed to be really subtle. Makes it sound just a little bit more lively, okay? Now, if I were to choose this cabinet, I would probably want to use some EQ, which is something that I try to avoid at all costs, usually. But let's try it for now. And let's go for a parametric EQ and cut some of those slightly boxy mids. So let's go to a mid band and go for a lower frequency, let's say 450 or something, maybe 500. And let's boost it a little bit to see if we've got the right area, and then cut it. Yeah, so that's where those honky mids live, right? So I'm going to cut, let's say, about 1 dB. Let's go a little bit further just to see what happens. Tremolo bars are too much fun. So yeah, that helped. Let's back it off a little bit. Let's say 2.7. All right, so with the EQ on and the EQ off. So there's some mid honk in there that I don't really like. So I'm compensating for that with this EQ. If we're using the stock cab, that is. All right. Okay, so now you've got an idea how this preset will sound with a stock cab. Now I want to switch to an IR. So let's do that right now. Let's go to the IR, cab IR, and see how that sounds. Let's lower the level a little bit as it's a bit louder. So this is the SDS Heyday Mix 1, which is based on a Jesus Demon speaker, and this is the main mix. So I'm definitely not saying that the stock cab isn't good, because it sounded fine, but immediately with this IR, I get a tone that's a bit more desirable for me. What we could do to make the guitar fit the mix a little bit better is cut some of the sub lows, let's say to 70 Hertz, cut off some of the top end at, let's say, 10K-ish. So I'm making the sound a bit more my own, because it's my IR that I shot. And again, if you want this same sound, you can get it in my web store. But I also want to try some different IRs, some different speakers, if you will. So I've shot IRs of all my speakers. Let's try the V30 as well. My standard Chinese V30, which is my favorite speaker. It's definitely more bitey and less scooped. I do like the scooped and brutal sound of the Heyday, but that is cool. It always works. Let's try the Amperian Explorer. It's a little bit on the mid-honky side for me with this amp right now. Let's try the M-Ray, which is the Amperian Revolution. Sounds good, sounds good. And finally, let's try the Carney, which is based on the Eminence Carnivore. Not bad, sounds pretty thick. However, for metal, I'm just a fan of the Jesus Demon, so I'm gonna stick with that, the Heyday. Of course, we've got different mixes. So this is the main mix, which is gonna sound pretty thick. But we also have like different blends. Okay, this is pretty satisfying, so I'm going to stick with this one. So that's Mix 2, which is a blend between a 57 and an MD421 compact. There we go. That is quite satisfying. All right, very cool. So I'm sticking with that. Love how it sounds. I want to tweak the amp a little bit further. I want to add a little bit of presence there just to open it up a touch. So just as with the real amp, the presence control doesn't react in a linear fashion, if you know what I mean. So that's interesting. Let's try lowering the master volume a little bit. That might open it up too. of course, that lowered the volume. So cool. Let's scoop the mids a little bit, see what happens. Sweet. Let's add a little bit of treble. And perhaps let's lower the depth a little bit. Very nice. Now, what I'd like to do now is raise the threshold a little bit of the noise gate. So it's nice and tight. Very good. So this would kind of be my basic preset. Now for a mix, I might still cut those mids a little bit, but maybe a little bit less. Let's see how that sounds with 1.5 decibels. It's a little bit of a honky amp. Let's cut a little bit less, raise the level touch to compensate. EQ on, EQ off. So it polishes the sound a little bit and makes a little bit of room for, let's say, drums, bass guitar and stuff, and vocals, right? Because that's something that I always take into account. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, so I think this is it. I'm keeping it very basic. Of course, you can add a bunch of effects and do snapshots and stuff, but this is just like a meat and potatoes heavy tone, and I think it sounds great. I think it sounds awesome. Very cool. So of course, we don't need to put a boost pedal up front because the amp in combination with this Fishman Fluence modern pickup already sounds really tight, focused and aggressive. And I like it a lot. So again, with the EQ on for that final polish, if you will. Yeah, sounds sick. I'm really happy with that tone. So I'm going to save it. Let's save it. Save as new. Fishman Revv 1. Done. There we go. So that's my first user preset. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please also hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as that would really help the channel out. If you want to support this channel, get something like a Helix Stadium XL at my affiliate links for Thomann or Sweetwater. I'd really appreciate that. Or get an IR pack in my web store. Links below. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, of course. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And let me know what you'd like to see me do next with this wonderful new platform by Line 6. All right, see you soon, guys. Cheers.